Hello for this start the day for August, and we're in a beautiful cornfield just outside Southwell, and it's a beautiful evening actually, and the corn I think perhaps got a couple of weeks, I don't know, a little while to go, but it's very beautiful. It makes a lovely noise when the wind rushes through it.
So we'll try and speak up as well, because sometimes the wind makes it harder to hear. And we say it's a beautiful evening. You might have noticed over our shoulder there's slightly stormy looking clouds behind us, but we're hoping they'll hold off. We're actually recording this a week in advance of the first Friday in August, because as it turns out both of us are in slightly different locations next Friday, so the weather may look very different by the first Friday in August. And as we've often found, that kind of world events sometimes can move on very fast in a week, so we recognise that whatever you're doing as you join us today, lots of things may be happening around us and maybe to us as well. And we're reading from Psalm 13 today, which is the psalm in our reading pattern, a short psalm really that opens with the cry, "How long, O Lord?" And it's a cry of David trying to make sense of what's happening to him, of his sense of struggle and distress, a cry to God in the midst of some real challenges that he's facing, and especially people who are opposing him and even seeking to destroy him. And Derek Kidner, who we often refer to, beautifully sort of sums up this psalm in his commentary by saying that in the psalm there are three pairs of verses which climb up from the depths to a very fine vantage point of confidence and of hope. And he says if the path to that vantage point is prayer, which is what's implied in verse 3, the sustaining energy is the faith that's then expressed in verse 5. And finally, he says, the prospect from the summit in the final verse is exhilarating. And the retrospect, looking back, as David looked back on his life, is overwhelming as he sees the goodness of God through it all.
So we're going to read Psalm 13. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts, and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me?
Look on me and answer, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death, and my enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me.
And we've probably all experienced praying over and over again for something that seems intractable, maybe a situation that seems very difficult to resolve, or praying for a particular person in need, only to feel that God seems to be asking us to be patient or trust that he'll bring good out of what only quite often feels painful and sometimes overwhelming. What we found helpful in the psalm is not that the circumstances that David is facing are all sorted and resolved, but that he comes to a place where he renews his confidence and hope in God.
Sometimes you think we'll reach that new outlook and spiritual perspective once all our prayers have been answered, everything's worked through, and we know that doesn't work like that, because God is doing a deeper work in our lives, and often in ways that we can't understand at the time. And so actually he sees this new vantage point in the midst of all the challenges he's facing. And now we're hoping that at some point in August coming up, as a family, we'll get to climb some mountains, which is something we always look forward to doing. And if the weather, of course, is favourable, we may get a stunning view once we get to the top. But what David is describing here is a renewed outlook, which enables him to say, I trust in your unfailing love, which is above all a choice. It's not based on his circumstances, but his confidence in God. He's choosing to put his hope and trust in the Lord. And that choice has profound consequences, because he's then able to declare, my heart therefore rejoices in your salvation. I will sing of the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. And some of the older translations, in fact the New Revised Standard Version picks up some of the older translations by translating that, for you have dealt with me bountifully, which is just this idea of God's gracious provision.
And this brings us to the heart of the gospel, of the ministry of Jesus. And there's grace in abundance because of the cross and resurrection. And this is where our confidence comes from, that our salvation is secure and our hope in Christ will not ever be disappointed. And even as we look back, perhaps at difficult journeys we've had, that we may have been on, we can say with a grateful heart, as it says in the end of this psalm, he has been good to me.
So that's our prayer this August. Whatever you're doing, that and whatever you're facing or experiencing, that you'll have a sense of Jesus drawing you near to his heart, and discovering that his heart is bountiful. There is an abundance of grace that's given to us in Christ, and that giving you the confidence to keep trusting, to keep choosing to renew our hope in God. And whether you find yourself on, well, at least in bright mountainside moments, even if you don't get to stand on the side of a mountain, or you find yourself wrestling with doubts and fears in the middle of the night, to know that God is with you and that his grace is more abundant than we could imagine. And so to keep praying, to keep trusting. And so that's our prayer. And whatever you're doing this weekend and through August, whether it's home or away, may you know God's blessing.